Now, bikers have been eagerly awaiting the arrival of these two motorcycles, the sports bike, the Hyosung GT650R, and the cruiser, the ST7. These bikes have been brought into India by Garware Motors in partnership with Hyosung of Korea, a name that we are familiar with. They are being pitched more as big displacement, yet somewhat affordable motorcycles. What we need to see is, do they deliver? And to find out, we put them through the road test regime earlier on this day, and this is what happened. I started off with a fully faired sports bike, the GT650R. It certainly has lots of attitude. The air vents in the fairing and a stacked headlight give the GT a distinctive look. The meaty tires and the massive exhaust lend it a powerful stance. When it comes to design, the most striking bit about the GT650R is its vertically stacked headlamp. It just looks like it's from some other world, and that's bound to get its attention on Indian roads. The rest of it, I wish it was a little bit sleeker. In some ways, the GT doesn't feel contemporary. One example that just stares at the rider is the instrument cluster. It just feels so dated. And when sitting on it, I felt build quality, fit, finish, shut lines, those kind of things need to be improved to match up with what the Japanese motorcycles manage to offer. But of course, even more important is what the GT650R manages to deliver out on the roads. Let's take a look. The 90-degree V-twin Hyosung motor is water-cooled, has 4 valves, twin cams and displaces around 650 cc. The short-stroke motor pumps out a potent 72.6 bhp at 9,000 rpm. It also has a healthy torque of 6.2 kgm at 7,250 rpm. However, on the road, things didn't quite match up. Instead of top-end performance, the GT felt better to ride in the mid-range. That's because it didn't like to be revved hard, and that's despite its short-stroke design. When it comes to the engine refinement and smoothness, there's still some work to be done. There's a fair amount of vibrations from the engine, and the fueling has a few hiccups, so you need to make corrections on the throttle even when riding at a steady speed. The clutch is also quite heavy, which means you will get a bit of a workout if you're planning on commuting on this motorcycle in this city. But now the good news, there's good performance on tap. The GT650R delivers some really quick times. From standstill, it hits 60 km an hour in 2.5 seconds. 100 km an hour comes up in an impressive 5.1 seconds. Work the clunky 6-speed gearbox with care, and the GT should hit a top speed of 205 km an hour. It certainly is no slouch. However, the strong vibes and the heavy clutch keep you from really pushing this big bike. Now, like any good proper sports bike, the GT650R also has a very nice lean forward position for the rider. But the thing is, when you're crouched over, this tank seems to get in the way. That means high-speed action can be a bit awkward. Thanks to the aggressive seating position, riding day in and day out will also be less than ideal. The GT650 can feel tiring even after just a few kilometers. This is all the more exaggerated as the suspension doesn't quite live up to expectations either. It's not all that satisfying to ride hard because it just doesn't have that fierce commitment that you expect from a motorcycle like this. It never feels very settled and committed. The upside down front and monoshock rear on the GT650 have to deal with 215 kilos of curb weight and a lot of speed. In a straight line, the GT feels calm and confident, but it just doesn't feel eager or confident when pitched into a corner. There's heaviness in the way it moves, which doesn't make cornering a very enjoyable experience. However, once turned in, it feels quite planted and stable. The Bridgestone tires are exceptionally good and offer lots of grip. Though it really shouldn't matter to the performance bikers, however, for the record, the GT650R returned 20.4 km per litre in the city and 24.3 km per litre out on the highway. More than acceptable for this class of motorcycle. So, is the GT650R the bike you should put your money down for? What the GT650R is looking at doing is plugging the gap between the sporty 250s and the 1 litre class bikes. For that, it has the right displacement, it has sufficient performance. What it misses out on is handling. It needs better handling, the engine needs to be a little bit more refined as well, and build quality needs to improve to match up to its Japanese rivals. However, its trump card is its price tag. It really feels like a big bike that's being offered at a budget price. But with Kawasaki's ER6F expected to be launched quite soon, the GT650 had better watch out. But now it's time to move on to the cruiser, the ST7. Well, if it's cruiser looks you want, then the ST7 certainly delivers. It's big, low, it's got lots of chrome. It's really a stylish looking motorcycle. There's acres of chrome. The radiator shroud is blinding. Everything else glitters too, like the small headlamp, the wide handlebars, and the tall mirrors. It's unmistakably a highway star. The LED taillight at the rear is a nice modern touch. However, like the GT650R, the ST7 doesn't feel well put together. The palm grips and the instrument console don't feel well screwed together. Build quality needs to be better to match up to the competition. The build quality, fit finish could be a little bit better on it. One thing I do not like is this reach out to the key here under the tank. You can't even see it from here, but I guess you'll get used to it. But more important, of course, is the sweet twin motor right here. How did it perform out on the road? Let's find out. The ST7's motor is based off the GT650's engine. It has a bit more displacement, but it still retains the short stroke design, which isn't the best for a cruiser. As a result, the motor develops 61.7 bhp of power at 8,000 rpm, and peak torque of 5.8 kgm does come a little high at 7,000 rpm. So when stretching its legs, the ST7 doesn't feel all that smooth. It too has a bit of vibrations, though not as much as the GT650. Well, on the engine front, the ST7 could do with a bit more refinement for that relaxed feel. After all, it is a cruiser. The clutch, it's lighter than the one on the GT650R, but it's still on the heavy side, so it can be a bit tiresome. The gear shift quality, however, is good. The gearbox has well spaced out ratios. The engine has good performance. You can sit at speeds of 100-120 kilometers an hour for pretty much the whole day. But then, just high-speed cruising ability isn't everything for a cruiser, is it? Which means it should ride nice and smooth. The ST7 uses regular telescopic forks at the front and double shock absorbers at the rear. The small suspension at the rear has little travel and feels stiff. The front doesn't feel pliant either. For a cruiser, the ST7 really doesn't feel as smooth as expected. On anything less than perfect road, it actually feels quite choppy and unnerving. On the handling front, the ST7 isn't all that confidence-inspiring. That is understandable, as the ST7 isn't designed for being pushed around corners. Yet, it has to be said that when asked to do so, it responds reasonably well. On the good side though, you have a very nice seating position, the foot pegs are nice and ahead, the saddle is ample, very comfortable place to be even on the long haul. And how will the ST7 fare on your pocket on the long ride to Ladakh? Well, in the city, the ST7 returns 19.6 kilometers per litre. Out on the highway, it manages 20.8 kilometers per litre. So, is it the time for you to saddle up on a Hyosung ST7 for some classic cruiser action? Well, on paper, the ST7 really does promise a lot. It's got classic cruiser styling, it's got a nice V-twin motor, and after riding, I have to say, it does look stylish, feels very nice to be on, but I do wish build quality was a little bit better. The engine, it has adequate performance, but refinement again needs to improve, and ride quality definitely needs to improve. Some of you out there will be willing to overlook the ST7's mechanical shortcomings for the image of it. But then its pricing is putting it bang in the territory of Harley-Davidson's entry-level Sportster, which means the ST7's ride into India isn't going to be all that smooth.